Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. It is the Mystery and Thriller Maven Halloween Extravaganza, and I am so excited to welcome back to the show New York Times bestselling authors Lee Child and Andrew Child, here to give us the inside scoop on the brand new 27th Jack Reacher book, Child Brothers. Welcome back to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the welcome and thanks for the invitation to be on the show. And first of all, to have gotten to 27 books, when you said that number, it just feels huge to me because, you start with one and then you've got two and then three, and now we've got 27. And this one was absolutely just a dream. It was part of the normal way of writing a Reacher book, which obviously I knew about. But Andrew was thrown into the deep end with my crazy way of working, which is really to have no idea about anything. You just write an opening and let's see where it goes. And that's what we did. And the opening is typical Reacher. He's somewhere for no good reason, just hanging out, just wasting time. And there's an incident on the street that everybody else thinks was a suicide. But Reacher saw something that tells him, no, it wasn't. And so then it was a question of let's take off from there and see what happens.
Ooh, well, what happens is crazy. Fabulous and delicious, and I can't wait to get into every delicious detail. First, I just want to welcome everyone. So we're broadcasting live to 7 destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So no matter where you're watching from today, you're in the right place. This is the right time. It is Mystery Monday, and it is the Halloween Extravaganza. So if you've been here before, you know how this works. And if you're new, here's how it works. We're so happy you're here. Every Monday for hashtag Mystery Monday, I give you my handpicked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask these Child Brothers, their writing process, how they keep it going, how they stay motivated. What about creative difference? Has it ever turned to an arm wrestling contest or maybe just a wrestling contest? I don't know, but I want to know. So get your questions going in the comments and we'll get right over to them. If you're watching from a private group, you will be a mysterious user. You can enable privacy settings or you can stay mysterious. It is Mystery and Thriller Mavens after all. Fellas, let's get right into some of the amazing praise that this book has earned. So first, Karen Slaughter, Queen Karen, raving that no plan B is not to be missed. I'm going to pop this up so everyone can read it. She says it is perfectly plotted. It is a fast-paced thriller with bigger twists than ever before. It's no wonder Jack Reacher is everyone's favorite rebel hero. So you fooled Karen Slaughter because you didn't plot it. So tell us about this. So Lee, you say let's write the opening, and then how does it actually go from there?
Well, Andrew will tell you that because he had the responsibility for carrying on. But first of all, let me say I love Karen. She's a really good friend of mine. But maybe inadvertently, she's put her finger on something that it is better plotted than previous Reacher books because Andrew is a better plotter than I am. And so that, we get that benefit in this book.
Oh, please be too kind because, it was a big shock when we first started writing together. That was 3 books ago now. That was when we wrote The Sentinel. And I'd always heard Lee say things like that. And I thought, now, secretly he's got a plan, it's just hidden away somewhere where no one can find it. He must have a hidden safe in more of his and if eventually he's going to have to reveal it. And we had written a particular scene we'd batted it back and forth until we were happy with it. And we were ready for the next scene. So I remember saying, so what happens next? And he said, well, I don't know. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? You got to know. So, it did take a while. I was never a huge outliner or anything. I never had everything everything mapped out from start to finish. But I had some idea of where I was going or what I was doing. So it took a little while to adjust. And, honestly, when we were doing that first book together, I kind of secretly did try to, try and plan a few moves ahead, just as a comfort thing, really. And every single time I tried to do it, it was a waste of time because we wound up going in a completely different direction. And I think that's the key, really, the key to the way that Lee works and that, we work together now. It's about always making the decision kind of in real time. It's about saying at this moment and the story, as far as we have written it, what would Reacher do? And then what would the bad guy do? And actually, that's the fun part, isn't it? Because then we can just sit around together and we can just say, well, what would he do? What would happen next? And it's just fun.
Ooh. But what if you disagree about what Reacher would do next? What if Lee says, I think he would, do this, and then Andrew, you say, no, he wouldn't. What do you do when you have creative difference about what would Reacher do next?
It's a fascinating process because, Reacher actually doesn't exist. And so we're talking about what this non-existent person would or wouldn't do. But that just brings home how real characterization is for people, especially for the reader, because they want consistency from the character. They don't want something that is out of character to crop up. And so we have to talk about it a little bit. Would he do this or would he do that? And we've never come to arm wrestling yet because this is a very delicate subject because obviously I'm the older brother, so obviously I would win, except I'm not so much the older brother. I'm decrepit. I'm an old guy now, so probably he would win, and we can't afford to get into that. My psyche would be shattered probably.
But it's honestly I know it. I think often people want to hear about knockdown, drag out disputes, but sorry if it's a boring answer, but we just don't do that. It's, Reacher has lived with us as a kind of imaginary extra brother for nearly 30 years now. And so, we have this kind of shared sense of what he would or wouldn't do, and particularly since a lot of his attitudes and his characteristics kind of stem from our own personalities. We were talking a while ago about situations in real life where you feel that you don't have any choice. You are hardwired to react in a certain way, and Reacher is, and we know that. And so we just haven't really ever been in a situation where one of us has thought Reacher would do one thing and one the other.
No, it's been very harmonious. It's all based on, we're not actually involved in the exact adventure that Reacher is involved in. But I think the thing that makes Reacher popular is that even though readers are not in that desperate thriller world in reality, every reader has a job, let's say, or a family that involves hierarchy and conflict. And at work, there's usually some person in management that they hate and it's screwing everything up. So everything essentially boils down to human relationships. And people, I think, readers get really frustrated. They're at work and there is that stupid boss and they can't say what they want to say, but Reacher can. And so they translate Reacher's situation, which is more dramatic and more deadly, but it's still basically Reacher telling somebody to sit down and shut up, which they wish they could do in real life.
Exactly. And I do wish that. And I also wish I had an imposing, physical visage where I could make people sit down and shut up. First I would say it and then I would just make them. But that is not me yet. You're right. That is, I think, what so many of us love about Reacher. And I love that you described him as your imaginary brother of 30 years. What a lovely, lovely way to say that. We have a question here from a very mysterious friend joining us saying, what are the benefits and challenges of writing for a character who's already had 27 books and many terrific short stories written about his adventures? Great question.
Well, you're the one facing the challenges. So
It is a great question because, there are both benefits and challenges. One of the benefits is, as we just said, we've lived with Reacher for many years. So we know him, we understand him, we know what motivates him and what guides him. So we're not having to scratch our heads and invent all of that stuff for the first time, which is great. In terms of the challenges, our father was from Ireland, so he could get away with saying things like this. And he often would say that the key to something was making it the same, only different. And that's the main challenge, because if something has been done 27 times before, you can't tread the same ground. You have to come up with something new, and you have to make it interesting, and you have to make it different, but you also have to make it recognizably Reacher, because people, after 27 books, the readers know Reacher too pretty well, and they know what they want. And so you can't deviate too far from that, because you don't want people to be disappointed. So, the challenge part would be coming up with things that are new and different, but without changing Reacher's fundamental character in a way that people wouldn't like. So great question. And, I hope that comes close to answering it.
I love that. And our mystery user is sharing that she is Lynn B. Johnson. Lynn, thank you for the great question and for sharing who you are. Now, Andrew and Lee, when you came on last year, we learned that you are coffee drinkers. You are copious coffee drinkers. I think, Lee, you said you drink 35 cups a day, and Andrew, you do 38 cups. So first of all, how many cups deep into the day are you? I hope you're caffeinated and bringing that energy to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Are you still at the 38, 35 level? What's going on?
Well, what I try to do when I get, my coffee consumption always increases as I get close to the end of a book. And so, I'm already kind of at the point where I have more caffeine in my system than blood. So I figured that I can't allow this continuous increase to continue. So what I have to do is at the end of every book, kind of ratchet back so that I'm starting from a more reasonable level. So we are working on the next Reacher right now, so it's not as low as I've managed to get it at times, but it's at that sort of medium level at the moment, so probably only about maybe 20-25 cups a day at the moment.
Yeah. And how many cups deep are you right now, Andrew? How many have you had today?
Well, today has been a challenging day because we have had a few different Zooms already, so probably pretty low, probably only about 8 cups, 9 maybe today.
You're barely awake. What about you?
I'm doing well. I got up and I put on I have an old-fashioned drip machine that I fill to 12-cup capacity, and that's my breakfast. I also had a pan au chocolat this morning, but basically 12 cups of coffee. And then I drove over here to Andrew's house, and we had another cup of coffee. So I'm doing pretty well, although I'll be reaching my afternoon lull pretty soon. So I'm going to need some more imminently.
So I drink 6 cups of espresso a day, and I'm a little old Italian lady in my heart. So I use my little mocha pot, my little percolator, like an old, old fashioned on the stove. And but maybe I should look into the drip coffee maker.
All I need to do really is attach an IV line to it, and then I'll be good the rest of the day.
Exactly. I like, Andrew, that you drink more coffee as you get closer to the end of the book. So by the end, you're just, shaking like a hairband drummer, like, typing as fast as your little over caffeinated fingers can fly over the keyboard.
Yeah. But I've drank so much coffee for so many years that it never really makes me, twitchy like that. It's more a question of, can I drink enough to stave the headaches off? It's not, what happens if I drink too much? So, it can be a problem. Sometimes I can't sleep at night until I've had an extra couple of shots of espresso.
That the espresso puts you to sleep? Wow.
That's a level, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You drink it until it's time to go to sleep, and then you stop and you immediately fall asleep.
Okay. That is next level. That's master level there. Oh, cool question. Another mystery user wants to know, how do you keep coming up with new scenarios for Reacher? And I think that really speaks to the heart of creativity. How do you keep yourself replenished? How do you keep yourself spurring new ideas? How do you continue to persist in this creative endeavor?
It's a tough thing to do, because what we do not want to do, we don't want to make everything bigger and bigger and bigger every year. You know, that's a danger with thriller writing. You've got to have conflict, obviously. You've got to have a bad guy with a nefarious intent. But you've got to keep it human scaled if you're going to do a book year after year. Because let's say you did a book where it was a really exciting story about a race to stop a terrorist exploding a nuclear bomb in the middle of Manhattan. What are you going to do next year? Is it 2 nuclear bombs in LA? And what are you going to do the year after? Is it 4 nuclear bombs in Chicago? So what do? So we try and keep it on a human level. And we instinctively find our way just based on what would annoy us as individual people, what kind of thing really annoys us. And then it's a question of morphing that into something suitable for a story. But it's fundamentally that human reaction. When Reacher takes a look at somebody, does he just get a little annoyed and go down one course, or is he sympathetic? And so that's how we try and judge it.
Yeah, and you can really see that in the beginning of No Plan B, because the book opens with a scene that hinges upon, one of the things is the reliability of eyewitnesses, which is something that Lee has been thinking a lot about recently. And the other part of it is initially, the police don't listen to Reacher because there are other witnesses who are smarter and more respectable looking, so the idea that, people judge you based on your appearance, that was something else that was at the forefront of our minds for some reason when we were starting this book. So we take the feeling, how do you feel when you're dismissed because someone doesn't think that your shirt is neat enough or something, how does that make you feel? What do you do as a result? Those are the building blocks that we use.
Oh, that's so interesting, because my husband is a lawyer, and he's talked about the unreliability of eyewitness testimony and how fragile and fallible human memory is, and how humans can actually think they remember something that they were never there for. There was a big study, I think it was at Yale, where it actually proved that 38 people could remember something that they were provably not even at. And it is fascinating, the fallibility of that. So I love that that's what you guys were thinking about when you decided to create this new. Because at first I was thinking, do you mean how do you feel when you see someone hit by a bus? Because that's the opening of this book, and I was thinking, how would I feel if I saw someone hit by upset? I think, but the deeper level is much more interesting, and I love how you're talking about not only eyewitness testimony but people's appearances and how that's believed or not by the police. Fascinating stuff. And question is from Michelle HH. Thank you, Michelle. And she says she's very pleased to meet you both. I want to and we have another one saying, I love that you think about what would annoy you. Such a logical starting point. We have another fan saying, I'm a big fan of the Reacher short stories, especially Second Son. Are those typically written as character studies before starting a novel, or a break during the novel writing, or something else? This is from Lynn B. Johnson. Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. It was there was a brief period where ebooks had come out, and so we were unsure how to respond to that segment of the market, how to use ebooks. Obviously, for instance, No Plan B is available as an ebook, just like it's available as a hardcover and an audiobook and a large print and all of those things. But how do you actually use ebooks as a method of getting in touch with the reader? And we went through a period of, I think, 5 or 6 years where we did an short story, and Second Son was originally electronic only, and then it's been reprinted physically since then. But it was about what content would be good for an ebook teaser, just to keep people in mind of Reacher so that they would be waiting for the next hardcover. And I enjoyed writing those. I had a strange mental block, though, where I know that lots of people are going to read the novel, but for some reason, I didn't really imagine people reading the short story. So I could just do whatever I wanted. And so, yeah, that Second Son was about Reacher as a young teenager, still with his family around. And it gives you a slightly different playing field to have some fun on. You just can do something that you wouldn't normally do, and it's short, so it doesn't have to be fantastically involved. I really enjoyed doing those short stories, and hopefully there will be more.
So it's interesting that you felt freer, and because you didn't think so many people would be reading. Do you feel free, both of you, as you are writing what is now the 28th Reacher? Do you feel free? Do you feel constrained? What would you write differently if you knew no one was going to read the 28th?
Well, I kind of do imagine that people, I don't imagine people reading it when I'm writing it, because part of, as you know, part of the problem when you're writing is you have to switch off all of those little voices in your head that are doubting and that are putting worry into your mind. You have to switch all of them off and just get on with getting the words down on the page. And one of the ways that I do that is that I try to forget about I try to keep a big goal in mind, which is that I want to produce a book that people will love to read, but I try not to think of them in the moment reading the actual words that I'm typing, because I find that, makes me nervous. So, I'm shooting at this goal that's way in the distance, which is providing a book that people are going to love, but without thinking about them reading the individual words and in that moment, because, you don't want to be constraining yourself with that kind of worry, I think.
Right, and you really can't, because every reader is different, and happily we have a lot of readers, and so they're all different. And one of the scary things about doing it is at the very beginning, when you've done your first book and only a handful of people have read it, theoretically you could know all those people. You could say hi, and then you get a couple of readers, and you get a couple of hundred readers, then you get a couple of thousand readers. And really at that point, that's too many people to visualize. If you had 2,000 readers and you wanted to take each one of them out to dinner every night to say thank you, you would be going to dinner every night for more than 5 years just with 2,000 readers. And so once you get it, and practically every author has 2,000 readers, most of them many more than that. So for any author, it's really hard to visualize exactly who is your reader, because there's such diversity.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that you're thinking about that in that way. Catherine Hollum, welcome to the conversation. She's saying it's scary how liquid memory is. I like your use of the word liquid, Catherine. Catherine has 2 questions. She wants to know, had you written anything together before beginning to work together on Reacher? So Andrew, you have written your books under the pen name Andrew Grant, and Lee, you had written your books under Lee Child. Now you co-write. Tell us, had you co-written before?
Well, between the two of us, no, never. And I had only ever co-written with a couple of other people for what you would call gimmicky short stories. The idea. I've been in a couple of anthologies where the whole idea was that 2 authors would come together with their 2 characters for a short adventure featuring both characters. And, those were good stories, but they weren't the sort of center of my life. This wasn't my job necessarily. So they were just amusements outside of the mainstream. And I'm not great at working with other people, and especially with my methods, and not great at working with other people. So we approached this with a certain amount of trepidation. Would we, in fact, be able to get on and do it rather than having fights every day? But so far, it's been wonderful.
Now, Lee, when you visited us last year, you shared that that Andrew actually annoyed you for the first 15 years of your life because he was the annoying, pesky little brother. You wanted him to go away, and then at some point, Andrew miraculously became not annoying, and now he's your best friend. Does he ever annoy you during the creative process
Uh,
or outside of the creative process?
that's a tough question to ask when he's sitting right next to me.
But we know you could wrestle him into submission and give him a noogie. So
I think, rather than annoyed, what it does bring home to me is how different it is for every single author, even though we are related and very similar in our personalities and our experiences. I mean, you are not going to find two writers who are better equipped for this than us. But even so, the dramatic differences in how it comes out, how you actually manage the day, how you view things like urgency. One thing might be very urgent. The other thing you can do later. What is your comfort level with deadlines? All of this kind of, every author is different. And so rather than being annoyed, I've rather stood back and thought, wow, yeah, even though we are actually very similar, we are still quite different.
Andrew, what about from your perspective? Does Lee annoy you? I have a feeling that Lee is perhaps the more comfortable one with deadlines bearing down on him. I don't know why I think that.
Well, I think it's just a question of, the way it's worked out is that I've adapted my methods to suit Lee's. And yeah, it's really just a question of being amazed at what a different approach it was to the way that I've been doing things for years. So I feel like I'm still more in that adapting phase, rather than in having got to a point where I've got it down pat and I'm then in a position to be more judgmental about it. I'm still, I'm still a work in progress in that respect.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, let's get to Catherine's second question. She'd like to know, is there another story in mind for Reacher as you're writing, or do you learn as you go? Okay, so you're in book 28. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you. Great question, Catherine. Yeah, no, it's going great. But no, I mean, I don't have the brain power to be thinking about more than one thing at once. So, when we are working on a Reacher story, that is it. That is the whole world. It is, all that I have time to think about is that one story, and no idea about what I'm going to do next. No idea if I'm going to remember to eat dinner. Nothing like that. It's just working on the story.
Yeah, I mean, again, writers are so different. I know writers that have got shoe boxes full of index cards with possible storylines on them, stretching years ahead. Some people plan in meticulous detail. Some people make a 5-year arc where they see where their next 5 books are going. I don't even know where the next 5 words are going. And so, it's, can you finish the book that you're on? Is it going to turn out all right? And if you do, it feels like a unique triumph. And then you think, I've got to do this all again. And you've got zero idea. That's been really my only regret about a long career. It did not get easier. I thought it might.
Yeah, there's a cliche I heard once that says that you never learn how to write a book. You only ever learn how to write the book that you've just finished. And that's not helpful since they're all different.
Oh, I love that. That is a great quote. Everybody, I want to let you know this book is out, and guess what? Murder by the Book has signed copies signed by both Lee and Andrew. We're so lucky. So you can get your signed copy by Lee Child and Andrew Child today. And I'm going to share that link where you can click and pre-order no matter where you're watching from. Trust me, y'all, you're going to want to read this book. So right here is, and it's so much, and it's so special when it's signed. It just makes such a difference. And also we're coming up on holiday season. We got Christmas, we got Hanukkah, we got New Year's. We just had Diwali. There's a lot going on. Your mother-in-law's birthday, your sister's birthday, your birthday, your brother's birthday. Heck, it could be your birthday. Think ahead, shop ahead, order ahead. And here is the link to get your signed book. Cause you guys, it's so good. You're going to love No Plan B by the children, the brothers. Here it is. So grab your copy right now. And it is signed, which is literally the most special gift. Someone saying it did not get easier. I thought it might, Lee. That is so true. Absolutely. Absolutely. Another person is saying the creative journey is a solitary one. Necessarily. Very true. So much of what you guys are saying is resonating. Catherine saying group projects are hard, laughing out loud. She's glad it's working out. Katie is saying she's really enjoying this awesome chat. Hey, Katie, great to have you. Thanks for tuning in. Lynn has another question. She said, can you tell us which novels is or are the topic of Reacher season 2?
Yeah, Reacher season 2, which is shooting right now, is based on Bad Luck and Trouble.
Ooh, okay.
That's the story where it starts out that members of Reacher's old unit are turning up dead 10 years after they've all left the army. And so what is Reacher going to do about that? Well, you've probably got a pretty good guess.
We have a good guess, and we are here for it. Lynn, who's sharing her initials are LBJ. I love it. Is saying, yay, Lynn. I'm excited too. Thank you so much for the great question. Now, Lee and Andrew, when you were here last year, Lee, you shared your very successful diet with us, which consists of the 3 C's. That would be coffee, cigarettes, and cannabis. Are you still on that diet, and have you persuaded Andrew to join you?
Well, Andrew needs very little persuasion about following his own hedonistic desires. So, yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. Everything beginning with C, like champagne, chocolate, caviar, anything like that. So if you want to have me over for dinner, give me something that begins with C and I'll be fine.
Carbonara.
Works for me.
Okay, perfect. I love to cook. I'll cook anytime for you guys. Kunal, welcome to the conversation. Joining us from YouTube, saying he's a Jack Reacher fan. Welcome to the conversation. Great to have you. And I want to get back to some of this amazing praise that the book has earned. The Real Book Spy says No Plan B is one of the best Reacher books in years. Publishers Weekly saying, who could ask for more? Kirkus said, fans who come for the action will not be disappointed. A grimly efficient addition to the Reacher canon. So let's pause there, because as you shared, you don't outline. You write the beginning, you write, and you see where you go from there. So then when you get to the end, do you say, oh wait, we need more action in the first half of the book or this chapter? Or does it, at this point, because you are both seasoned writers, does it just flow sort of organically?
Yeah, I think it's about instinct, honestly. I think that we just we've read lots of books over the years. We know what we like, and we have a sense of what needs to go where in the book. But one thing that we never do is, if we have got to the end and we realize we're trying to pull all the threads together and it's difficult for some reason, we never cheat. We never go back and alter something earlier in the book so that our life is easier later. We never do it. It would just feel like cheating. So we write as we go, and that gives us a certain amount of material to work with, and we work with it. We make it. We make everything work using what we've provided. It would be kind of dishonest, I think, to go back and tweak it just to make it easier.
Yeah, if there's something that we've set up earlier that makes it really hard for Reacher at the end, that's not our problem. That's Reacher's problem. He's got to fix that himself, and he does. It works out on the page. But it's a really interesting concept, this thing about no outline, because I literally have none, no notes, no plan, no specific ideas, none at all. But having been a reader all my life, I've read hundreds of thousands of books and tens of thousands in this genre. So you do have a kind of DNA level sense of what does the reader need, because you've been a reader all your life. You are a reader. And so you just got to get in touch. What would the reader like here? What would the reader respond to? What does the reader need? There's all kinds of silly things written about writing theory, that they say a character should want something on every page. Well, you know, the character's made up. That's not real. It's that there's only two real people in this whole transaction. One is the writer and the other is the reader. And it's the reader that wants something on every page, not a character. The reader wants something. The reader wants to make progress. They want a clue. They want progress. They want advancement in the story. They want momentum. That's what you've got to give the reader. And the characters are a way of expressing that.
Thank you for saying that, because as someone who doesn't have any degree in writing, certainly not an MFA, not even an undergraduate degree in writing, I have always heard that advice and been very intimidated by it, because I think these people are imaginary. How the hell do I know what they want? Like, you know, or they don't want anything. I tell them what they want, you know? And so I have always felt sort of left out and less than, because I didn't know, because I didn't get it. And that is actually really freeing. So thank you for being so real and honest and open and calling that out for what it is, which is kind of BS. So thank you. Thank you. I love that. So, okay, we have just a few minutes left. Everybody, I just want to remind you, the book is out and you can get signed copies. So get your signed copy, a treat. It's Halloween after all, for yourself. Now, I promised you a day of treats, no tricks, prizes, and surprises. So let's get to our next prize. I will buy a lucky winner a signed copy of this fabulous book. To enter, tell us what your favorite Halloween costume has ever been. And Andrew and Lee, what's your best Halloween costume been?
Just my normal appearance. That seems to worry people like me.
Andrew, have you ever dressed up? What's your favorite costume?
You know, I'm sorry to be so boring, but I've never dressed up for Halloween. So, you know, I don't have any stories to tell on that one.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you've never dressed up. We need to get you some more coffee.
We grew up in Britain back at a time when Halloween was not a big deal there. You know, in fact, most of the time it was ignored, more or less. And so, you know, we did not start out as kids dressing up, so we didn't get into that tradition.
No.
If I'm home on Halloween, sure, I'll give out the candy and all that kind of stuff, but it's not naturally to me a big deal.
Okay, what's your favorite candy?
I think Snickers is my favorite. I mean, there's a meal right there that is great road food. If you're touring and you don't have time, a Snickers and a cup of black coffee will see you through.
Your 35th cup of the day. Andrew, what about you?
I like just Cadbury's milk chocolate, the plain Cadbury's chocolate. I love it. And I have to kind of steer clear of it, because once I open a bar, I'll just eat all of it. But actually, there's a kind of chocolate you can get in Laramie, Wyoming, near where we live, that actually comes with coffee beans in it. So it's a kind of limited thing. Yeah, it's fantastic. So if I can get my hands on that, then, you know, there you go. Like you say, you know, two food groups in one, chocolate and caffeine. So yeah, but if I can't get the chocolate with the coffee beans in, then I go with the plain Cadbury's. But if you can get the one with the built-in coffee, so much the better.
It's like making coffee with caffeinated water. I went through a phase of doing that, and that was a free hit.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. So I just hosted Ellie Griffiths live from the UK, and she shared that her favorite candy is the Cadbury, a Cadbury as well. And I was saying that when I lived in London, I noticed the Cadbury over there tastes different and better than the Cadbury over here. It's supposed to be the same because it's Cadbury. It's not. I've done a taste test, and it's better in the UK. Oh my gosh.
UK Cadbury's is from Birmingham, just like us. So yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So you guys, thank you so much for joining us for this Halloween extravaganza. Thank you for giving us the inside scoop on Reacher number 27. It's great to know that you're at work on Reacher 28. And we can't wait to read 27. It's out now, you guys. Don't forget to enter to win your signed copy by these fabulous authors. And happy Halloween. I'll be back at 3 p.m. with Lisa Unger. Stay tuned. tuned. Thank you guys again for coming on. So fabulous to have you back.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
You guys are the best. Thank